Welcome to Outside the Box. This is a Stochastic and Fantasy Points collaboration show. We're going to be taking a look at the tools at Stochastic and at Fantasy Points, taking a close look at the Fantasy Points data suite. We're going to find the best plays available on the Week 5 main slate. While you're coming in, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. You can also follow me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. You can follow Scott on Twitter at Scott Barrett DFB. Is that right, Scott? DFB?
That's right.
At Scott Barrett DFB. You can find us both on Twitter. Scott, man, we missed a week. I missed you last week. I'm so happy that you are back this week. You didn't play any DFS last week, right?
No. I sat out.
You sat out the week.
How'd you do?
I thought I was going to do pretty well going into like the fourth quarter of the last game. I ended up getting buried by Christian McCaffrey. So I went from like I was winning a few $100, like maybe halfway through the third quarter of the 4 p.m. games, and then ended up losing about $100 on the main slate. So didn't go my way. I had Christian McCaffrey, but he was not in my good lineups. Like I had some lineups that looked really live early on. They kind of petered out towards the end, and then Christian McCaffrey buried them. So ultimately lost about $100, which, you know, not the end of the world. There are going to be weeks where I lose a lot more than that. So $100 loss, not horrible, but I thought I was going to make money right up until the end. I really liked Justin Fields again last week, so that part of it worked out.
Did you like him on Thursday?
On Thursday, yeah. I mean, I hate it when these players go off on showdown slates where it's like, yeah, but everybody loved him on Thursday, so it didn't matter. So it was like Everybody had Justin Fields anyway. You don't really play showdown, right?
No. I'm always writing, so.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. You even though you didn't play the slate last week, did you do any any content for it last week, or was that like as I recall, you don't really take a ton of time off, but did you not do a lot of content last week?
Yeah, I did my big the everything report, and then I supervised Jake, who wrote my big DFS article, the slate breakdown. But yeah, it was kind of nice to just give myself a few days off. Obviously subs were not happy with me for missing the Cashing Points live stream. But I was punished. I came down with Montezuma's revenge, and I spent the entire week on the toilet. Not a fun time. But yeah, with like Showdown, it's just like really, we have a great Showdown writer, Pat James, and it's just really nice for me to just kind of like take 2 teams off of my, the teams I have to research each week. So I kind of like giving that to myself, but every time I do play Showdown, I eke out a small profit. So, yeah, I might be, nice. It might be smarter to actually just throw some darts there.
Nice. Well, happy to not have you in the Showdown streets. It's been one of my more profitable formats of playing NFL DFS. So yeah, you should stay away from the Showdown stuff. We don't need you in the Showdown streets, but honestly, you do so much. It's ridiculous to me that anybody would be upset that you took 1 week off for a guy who works as hard as you do. I mean, every week you put in so much work, all of these super long articles, you do shows.
Bro, I've been doing this part-time, full-time for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years now. I've only missed 3 articles ever. My father's funeral, I had like a 104 fever for COVID. And then my best friend's wedding in Mexico, and we had subscribers asking for like 1 week paid back to them because I miss. Jake did a great job. I supervised that, and he's super sharp. But yeah, I'm excited to be back. Like I legitimately missed it. I love what I do. It's really such a blessing, and I had a lot of fun. Despite being on the toilet for most of the time, but diving into the slate, and I feel good about it. I feel like I've got some spicy, unique takes, and that's perfect for a show like this, Outside the Box. We're trying to think outside the box. We're trying to be more contrarian minded, large field GPPs, trying to go against the grain. And I feel like I've come there somewhat organically this week. So nice. I think this is gonna be a great show.
Yeah, and that was a good point. You left people in good hands with Jake Tribby, Fantasy Sports Writer of the Year. So nobody,
that's right.
It hurts to not have Scott there, but like Jake is a great replacement as well. So we talked about one thing that's going to be tough for us this week is we've been doing Survivor, and I already got knocked out. So it's like, do we keep doing it after I got knocked out? And then on top of that, we didn't have the show last week, so we don't know who you would have picked. So are we just gonna like pretend like last week didn't happen for you? I don't know that there's a great solution here for like who would Scott have played last week?
Right. I know you should ask me. I don't know. What team would I pick this week? I'd take the Lions is what I would do.
For this week. Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually,
you give me a free pass for forgetting to put mine in.
Yeah.
I'll give you a free pass for getting knocked out.
All right. Well, here's the problem with you taking the Lions is I was going to take the Lions, but I'll take somebody else. Let me see if I can find somebody. I actually do one survivor pool now. In past years, I've done more, but I forgot to sign up this year, so I'm only doing like small stake stuff with some friends of mine, and I took the Lions in that one. But I am going to find a different one here that I can play. I'll just go to one of the other top bets of the day. So I don't think I've taken the Dolphins yet. Yeah, I'll just do that. You take the Lions, I'll take the Dolphins. That seems easy enough. I don't feel like we need to do a ton of analysis of why we're taking these picks because they are the two highest spreads in the field right now. Is there a reason that you like the Lions better than the Dolphins here?
I just feel like I might need the Dolphins at some point. They're really a top 3 team in the NFL to me right now. So I'll probably just keep that in my back pocket.
Okay, that's reasonable. Seems like, and that was my reasoning also for why I took them in my actual survivor pool. But we don't need to spend a ton of time on the survivor stuff, especially now that I've already been knocked out. It's like, all right, well, this is less fun. Let's take a look at
what's my prize, Neil? Do you owe me like $10,000?
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about what the prize is. Oh, because you already won because I got knocked out.
That's right.
Yeah, your prize. We'll have to think about. We'll have to think about what the prize is. If anybody in chat has an idea, you want a pony? I'll see what I can get you from a pony standpoint. All right. So the winning lineup last week. So I know you weren't around, Scott. You didn't do a ton of. Usually we look at this with like we did the show last week. How did it go for us? So we maybe don't need to spend a ton of time looking at last week, but sort of interesting. Last week we had Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs with no bring back from Miami, but we had some secondary correlations here with Nico Collins and Pat Freiermuth in the Pittsburgh-Houston game. I'm remembering that right. Yeah. Was it Pittsburgh-Houston?
I tuned out. I'm
sorry.
Oh,
yeah, it says it right here. Yeah. So we had secondary correlation with Freiermuth and Nico Collins. We had another secondary correlation with Christian McCaffrey and Michael Wilson. So overall, I think this was a really solid lineup, even though it was just a single stack, no bring back. This was a one guy entering just one lineup, took down the middle.
Whoa, that's almost unbelievable with this team.
Yeah. Even as somebody who doesn't play a single lineup, I'm always, happy for the people who do take it down with a single lineup. That was really cool to see people take it down with a single lineup. And this looks like a really strong lineup to me. Do you have any notes, any thoughts on this lineup, Scott? I know it's hard when you took the week off.
No, not really.
I think 3% owned Khalil Herbert was a really sharp play. I know I was trying to get there pretty late.
Yeah.
Up against that broken Denver defense. Really low owned Michael Wilson, kind of touchdown variance kind of got him there, but
I think I've got a play like Khalil Herbert this week, like a week 4 or the week 5 version of week 4 Khalil Herbert this week. We'll talk about him later.
Beautiful. All right. Well,
4,700, 3.3% ownership. Yeah. I think I've got that play.
Excellent. Happy to hear that. I have a guess who it's going to be, but I'll see if I'm right. I'll let you bring him up. All right, now let's move on. Are you ready to just talk about the main site? I think we've talked about all the past stuff we need to talk about, and we'll start by talking about some quarterbacks here. So we have, in terms of ownership, we have 3 chalky quarterbacks. We've got Jalen Hurts, 14.5%, Tua, 14.4%, Mahomes at 12%. Interesting. So we had Joe Burrow in double digits early. Now he's dropped down to 7.6%. But of these 3 guys at the top, how do you feel about the ownership? Are there any of these guys that you think are just like that's too high of ownership, or do you think the ownership is pretty reasonable on all of Hurts, Tua, and Mahomes?
Yeah, no, I do think that's pretty reasonable. I don't know if it's just because I told myself this week I really want to just like narrow down. I don't want to be all over the place like I was a couple weeks ago. I really want just 3 lineups this week. I'll do 3 entry max, and maybe it's just like, because that's the way I'm attacking things. I would rather play Ram side and Viking side, and maybe that's just because of ownership and just because of pricing. But I feel like there's more upside there. Is that like, I mean, is that what you're seeing? Like I expected Hurts to be more chalky and Mahomes to be more chalky than Stafford or Cousins.
I mean, I kind of love that, to be honest. And I actually, if I'm being honest, I would throw in the third one there too. Although it looks horrible in the top stacks tool, the Giants looks like Danny Dimes a little bit over-owned in the top stack. So he's a quarterback that I want to get your opinion on as well. But I kind of like the other side of all 3 of these games as contrarian plays that I think have a real shot of getting there. We will talk about that side of it as well. But no, I like that. I like the idea of just going to Stafford with Cooper Kupp back now too. It's going to be unique. Not a lot of people are going to want to go there. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to want to play any of those pass catches. But I actually threw that idea out on the earlier show that like it might be super contrarian too. So it might actually make some sense. And then yeah, I love Cousins here against Mahomes and the Chiefs, where we have him at 6% ownership, nearly 13% chance of being the top stack. I mean, that just looks phenomenal here to go to Kirk Cousins there. So I love that idea. But I want to hear why did you leave out the I mean, I guess it's probably intuitive to leave out Danny Dimes and the Giants here, given how awful they have looked so far this year. But do you have any interest there? Are they just completely off your radar, or any interest there?
Well, this is the show to kind of hype him up. And
Yeah.
remember that thread I made after week 2 about the winning Millie Maker lineup?
Yep.
That was like straight out. We played Daniel Jones in the Millie that week. And he commented and I was like, yeah, I played Daniel Jones because no one wanted to touch him because he looked so bad in prime time. And so it's sort of the same exact thing here. We know they're going to be pressure to put up points. Daniel Jones is the type of player who can like play terribly, have a really bad game, and still, have like a had to have it score. Like he could, 30 plus draft. Like that's definitely within the range of possibilities given his mobility. I'm going to play 3 lineups, so I'm not going to get there. I don't know that it's going to be pretty close. This has long been the most pressure sensitive quarterback in football. And now he's down 3 starting offensive linemen and Evan Neal. Like I would rather be starting a potted cactus than Evan Neal. Like having him out there is worse than having another team's backup out. Like I'm
going to clip this and send it to him, by the way. You see the way he was responding to people on Twitter this week?
Yeah. He was like, what are you, like a burger flipper? Like
yeah.
At least that burger flipper, like probably makes a good burger and
he
like takes pride in
yeah.
his job. Like, right. I don't, would you rather be like the worst offensive lineman bust of the past 5 years or like a good hamburger flipper?
I'll take the money and be the offensive lineman,
you're right.
But yeah, it's a fair question.
Yeah, it just feels thin to me. But I mean, like, garbage time can defense comes out. They're just in prevent for the last quarter and a half because they're up by 5 touchdowns. It makes and that you stack with a bunch of Miami players, which is easy. There's good value there. And like, would you be shocked if like Miami scored 6 touchdowns and then Daniel Jones outscored Tua? I don't think I would. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good call.
Yeah. I'm just confirming what I'm seeing in chat that Jahmyr Gibbs now doubtful. We'll talk about that when we get to Lions.
That pisses me off because I had Montgomery as like the best running back play of the slate before Gibbs was even questionable.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, this is supposed to be the contrarian show, but I guess that's an argument for Goff. The last time that Amon-Ra St. Brown missed a game is the only game he missed the last 2 seasons. Goff broke the slate. He had 380 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, and obviously tremendous value with those pass catchers who weren't accounting for a missed Amon-Ra St. Brown game. This should be like the ultimate run funnel matchup, and Detroit is like a run funnel offense this year. But it's like one of those things where just like, hey, you never know, could happen.
Yeah. Actually, that was one of Greg's favorite stacks on the early slate, the Goff with all of these secondary options for, and now we can't include Gibbs in there. He was one of the potential stacking options, but with Amon-Ra and Gibbs both out, David Montgomery is going to look like a smash play. We'll have to talk about Sam Laporta, Khalif Raymond, all these other. We'll talk about the stacking partners, I guess, more once we get to receivers, but definitely makes Goff that much more interesting, which is a little bit counterintuitive. Like, oh, you're missing your best playmakers. Now I want to play you, but like it makes all of the other options just such cheap stacking partners. So it makes it sort of interesting.
This is also a home game, which is absolutely crucial.
True. It's like his entire career. Like he's been better at home. Yeah. So yeah,
he needs a sponsorship with Tempur-Pedic or something like it. That's just, it's so crazy. Those splits.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. Just the bed. But just getting back to
Well, my
Daniel.
theory was he's just out partying his ass off on the road and like,
Okay.
yeah, and when he's at home,
Jared Goff.
he's doing jigsaw puzzles with his wife, and then he's out at the clubs till 5 a.m. when he's in Houston or Atlanta.
That makes sense. It's like the James Harden. Like if he's in a good nightclub city, he's gonna have a bad game. Maybe Jared Goff is the same way. Maybe we gotta track those nightclubs.
Yeah, Jared Goff at the shirt. He seems like the type.
Yeah, for sure. All right, getting back to Daniel Jones, I just want to say real quick, because he was somebody that I was super hyped on Wednesday when I thought, particularly when I thought Andrew Thomas was going to be back. I was like, okay, just get one, like just shore up that offensive line a little bit, and it's gonna really pay off against this defense. We have Andrew Thomas out again, I believe, so we don't get that bonus. But I do still think for all the reasons you said. I mean, you kind of went over the reasons to like Daniel Jones, even though you don't love him. Like,
I mean, negative points and he's pulled in the third quarter is like also within the realm of pot. It's just ultimate.
Exactly. Yep.
You know.
But this is outside the box. So we're playing. I'm building for the largest field GPPs. I do still like Danny Dimes. He doesn't look good here. Over 3% projected ownership, sub 2% chance of being the top stack for the Giants. But I think I'm still going to go there anyway. I hate that they're using Darren Waller as a like sort of faux blocker out there.
With those chip blocks.
And
he also, I listened to his press conference. He said with Daniel Bellinger banged up, he's going to be blocking more. And he's like, yeah, that's not really what I want, but that's what the team needs. And it's like, that's not what I want either. That sucks.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I own him in every season long league.
Me too. And in best ball, he's one of my highest. Just like all over the place. I've got Darren Waller. It's not looking good so far. But hopefully they'll get healthy on the offensive line, and he's going to put together a massive second half of the season. I guess that's what we're banking on at this point. But anyway, yeah. So I still have some interest in Dimes. So you're interested in the opposite sides of the Rams game. So
I wasn't sure if you were sorting by like top value. If that's ownership, then I definitely feel good about Stafford, Cousins over Mahomes and Hurts.
Okay. And so Stafford, I mean, the question is going to be, what are you doing with your Stafford stacks? Should we save that for the wide receiver discussion?
Yeah. Someone did ask that, by the way. We'll get to that later. I can tell you like what's easily standing out to me as the best play at ownership, but I don't know if you want to guess first or.
All right, let me see.
Say who you've got.
Best play at ownership. I'm gonna guess you're going to Anthony Richardson.
Oh, so he's my cash quarterback play this week. Like I've just been saying for a long time, like he's Exodia, he's the chosen one, he's the one, the prophecy proclaimed, like he's going to break leagues. He's averaging over 30 fantasy points per 4 full quarters. He also like missed 2 plays at the goal line in week 1, but he's just the man. For GPPs, like how I'm advising our subscribers is like, all right, get your exposure in cash. And then in GPPs, you can go elsewhere because Tennessee for like 3 straight years we have the stat schedule adjusted fantasy points per game allowed. And for the last 3 years, they've been like bottom 5 against quarterbacks through the air, but they've also been top 5 against quarterbacks on the ground.
Okay.
And so when they've faced Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, they've like held them to just like 20 rushing yards and no touchdowns, utilizing oftentimes like a spy, or maybe that's just like that great D line that's shutting down opposing running backs. And so I do think that kind of caps his upside. You can still play him, of course. Like Pittman's one of only 7 wide receivers with a 20 target share in every game thus far. He's super underrated. Alec Pierce is like identical to Gabe Davis in terms of usage. He has like a 9.9% target share, but he's like right next to Pittman in terms of air yardage share. That speaks to his ceiling, where maybe only he needs to get like 1 or 2 deep balls and rein those in, and like, huge value. It's just, I don't know. I think there's better plays. So it's not Richardson at 4.5%. It would be Lamar at 2.1%. Like what? I just don't get that. He's been an absolute monster. He averages 27.1 fantasy points per game over his last 3 games. It's only just barely behind Josh Allen. 14.1 rushing fantasy points per game since losing J.K. Dobbins, running a lot. And I think like the last 2 weeks were the most inspiring. So 2 weeks ago, 28.2 fantasy points against Indianapolis. They don't have a good defense, but they do have one of the most zone heavy defenses. And that's huge because Lamar was always a player. I was just like, yeah, he's zone heavy. Like, don't play him. It's a trap. And, maybe this new offense works some kinks out, or he's just stepped his game up a bit. And then last week, he dropped 28.1 against the Browns. They were holding opposing quarterbacks to just 6.2 fantasy points per game coming into the week. And now he gets a Steelers defense that ranks bottom 10 in schedule adjusted, one of the top 6 most man-heavy defenses. He gets Rashad Bateman back. He might be getting Odell Beckham Jr. back. And the only concern is game script, but I mean, it was the same thing last week. It was 28-3 non-competitive blowout victory. And so, maybe it's the same thing again. So I just like that bet there. I also think there's some interesting stacking partners, which I don't usually say with Lamar, but I think this week there definitely is.
All right. So full disclosure, the show earlier, we were talking about the expensive quarterbacks, and Greg asked me, who are you fading at the top? And Lamar, I was like, well, or was that, he asked me who are my favorites, and Lamar, like, I named all the others, and I was like, Lamar Jackson, and I was like, man, it's not a spot against Pittsburgh where like I feel like I want to target Lamar. And then I looked at the ownership, and like I was kind of like sort of rethinking it, but never came around to change my mind on Lamar. It sounds like maybe I should change my mind on Lamar, because like the reasons that I look at him and think, yeah, it's not a great play because it's not the best spot, are the same reason that other people are not going to want to play Lamar. But obviously you're right. Like Lamar always has the slate breaking upside. So when you can get him at low ownership, that is where you want to be playing Lamar. So
there are just like simple heuristics you should follow. Like, AJ Brown below 5%. Oh, you have to play him. Lamar Jackson below 3%. You have to play him. Oh, against a man heavy defense. That makes sense. And he's crushing it. And so, I'm trying to figure out those 3 quarterbacks. He's right there up there with, Tua and Stafford and Cousins. I also like CJ Stroud a good bit.
CJ Stroud is one that so in our initial quarterback discussion, I didn't name him, and then I came back to it. I feel like it's like, it feels pretty obvious to me to do like CJ Stroud with 2 pass catchers, Bijan on the comeback. Like that game stack to me, just like that makes all the sense in the world. You have the run funnel Texans defense for Bijan. You've got the sort of a pass funnel defense for the Falcons for CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud just been absolutely crushing it. His pass catchers, of course, they've been alternated. So maybe the single stack is even better than the double stack there. I don't know. What do you think of that kind of a game stack?
Yeah. I have some conviction in this game, which I guess we'll get to later.
Okay.
But it's not super obvious to me. Like I kind of went back and forth on it a few times. Atlanta really grinds the pace down, which isn't good for opposing offenses. Their 2 perimeter cornerbacks have been excellent. AJ Terrell, obviously everyone knows he's a stud. And then they had Trey Flowers, who was trash, but he's been replaced by Jeff Okudah the past 2 games, who hasn't given up a single catch. And so that's not great for these 2 wide receivers who seem like awesome plays. But then again, it's also a man heavy defense. Stroud has been like the second best quarterback against man, just barely behind Tua. The wide receivers have been both top 5 in yards per route run against man. So it's one of those situations where I don't really know, but it does speak to the upside. And I love that upside. In the everything report this week, I wrote about, 7 paragraphs on why I think the Texans are just this year's 2022 Seattle Seahawks. Wow. And if you can get on something like that early, that's huge for DFS, where you're going to have these spike weeks. And, there's been a Houston wide receiver in the winning Millie Maker lineup in 3 straight weeks. They're going so pass heavy. They look awesome. My former coworker, Bobby Slowick, everyone says he's a genius, and like he looks like it. Team's doing great. So I don't think I like him as much as Lamar and some of the other guys, but huge value there. Just the receivers are cheap. He's still pretty cheap, and he's been playing well.
What about the fact that we've seen and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like it's been sort of alternating weeks. Like the weeks where Tank Dell blows up, Nico Collins is kind of underwhelming, and the opposite is true also. Do you think there's anything to that, like going forward? Like, would you limit yourself to one of those pass catchers generally when playing Stroud?
Yeah, I think like I said, it reminds me of the Seahawks, where it's like last
Okay,
year,
yeah,
it's
go.
like who goes off, DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett? Like, ask your favorite fantasy expert. They have no idea. No
Right.
one knows. It's just it happens, and you kind of need exposure to both because the upside's so immense. Or maybe you just gravitate towards the lower owned guy. But yeah, I love both those wide receivers this week, in spite of, again, that tough matchup on the perimeter. But it's also man, and they've been crushing man. I don't know. It's tricky to read through it, but it's just like, bottom line is they're both mispriced and big upside.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about 2 to a maximum of 3 more quarterbacks. First of all,
Oh, I'm kind
last
of
week.
done, I think. All right.
Oh,
What do you got?
all right. So last week I told you I accidentally played some naked Joe Burrow, and I didn't mean to play him naked, but I did intentionally try to play
You
Joe
thought he was
Burrow.
gonna, run
Yeah,
for 70 yards with that
yeah,
calf?
just gonna limp through his 70-yard. Yeah, exactly. But this week, Joe Burrow facing this Arizona defense. We don't have T. Higgins now. Tyler Boyd, 4,500, maybe looks a little bit better. Jamar Chase obviously is Jamar Chase. What do you think of Joe Burrow? And your response to me was you're typically hesitant to play players who look like they might be injured. So, like, is this still a spot where you're going to avoid Joe Burrow because he looks injured, or I mean, are you believing the reports that he's looking healthier?
I would much rather play Josh Dobbs in that game. I think he's a legitimate good play. I talked about Mixon, and I talked about Jamar Chase, but you know, just to like save myself some time, because like you can get overburdened by like, oh, what about this? What about this? What
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this? Again, it's just one of those general rules I follow, is like, a guy is clearly hurt, I'm not going to play him. Do you know what the worst offense in football is right now?
The
It's the
Bengals.
Bengals. They're
Yeah.
worse than the Steelers, the Patriots, the Jets, the Giants. They rank dead last in points per drive. Um, I'm not going to chase that. I'll wait till the blow up game. We also saw from Dak Prescott in 2021, who had a calf strain. It took him 8 weeks until he was back to being like a productive quarterback again. So I'm just just easy rule to save me some time. I don't play guys who are clearly hurt.
Okay. Um, man, I wish you had just taken the first 4 weeks off, like
I
Jamar Chase
know,
was telling him
dude.
to. Like,
I
what the
know.
fuck, man? All right. Two. I think I have maybe just one more, maybe two more. One that I need to talk about is what are we doing with Zach Wilson here against this Denver defense that has just looked broken? Like they look like they don't know what they're doing. Zach Wilson actually looked pretty good in the last game. Any interest in Zach Wilson at sub 2% ownership against this Broncos defense?
Yeah, it's again one of those rules. It's like, has playing Zach Wilson ever made you money? Like, I don't think so. So you can just get away with that so easy. I mean, but 1.7% is honestly a lot lower than what I thought it was going to be. This Denver defense looks easily worse in the league. Like, they're not even trying, or better yet, they're trying to tank for Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Steve Palazzolo, PFF, had a great stat where it's like, in the first half of their last 2 games, quarterbacks are combined 50 of 50 for 700 yards and something insane like that. Zach Wilson, I keep hearing, I think that's wrong, just because I keep hearing on podcasts like, he looked great last week. He looked great. No. He didn't look great last week. He had the best game of his career.
Right.
It was still like, I don't know, like a decent game for Desmond Ritter or something like, well, Ritter's probably even worse than it, but something like that. It wasn't a good game. It was a good game for Zach Wilson. And yeah, I mean, fading the Jets over the past 7 years has just never lost you money. So I'm trying to narrow my pool, but like, I get it. I will also say, like, Justin Fields looking as sick as he did last week kind of pokes a slight hole in the Denver defense narrative, but I wouldn't fault anyone for going this route. It just won't be in one of my 3 lineups this week.
Okay. And then finally, the only other quarterback I wanted to ask about is Ryan Tannehill. I'm sort of interested in just like the receiving tree with no Treylon Burks in there already. DeAndre Hopkins pretty heavily targeted. Maybe now we can go back to Chigakonkwo, somebody who was a preseason darling, hasn't really worked out so far. Any interest in Ryan Tannehill?
I thought about him. Probably not though. Matchups good, all that. Treylon Burks is out. DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think is close to healthy at all.
Okay.
If he were, he has a high ankle sprain. These can take months to like fully heal from. Route share is limited. I think if he were fully healthy, he'd be the best play of the slate, and I'd be like super into Tannehill, but he's not. So it's like, do you really trust NWI? Okonkwo is like a legendary zone beater. He gets a great zone matchup, but even that, I mean, he's just done nothing. And like even last year, like he was a yards per route run god, but he never really had big spike weeks for DFS. I don't know.
I didn't even realize that DeAndre Hopkins was injured, to be honest. So
yeah, he picked up that high ankle sprain and he was questionable. Everyone was like, oh, he's not going to play. And then he did play. He was just on a capped route share. But like, if you follow all of like the Twitter injury experts, all of them are like, this is clearly a high ankle sprain and he's going to have diminished production until like week 8. Okay. And I kind of just think that's true.
Interesting.
He's one of those, he's going to tough it out, but
yeah,
doesn't
like
look right.
Joe Burrow.
Volume
like
could
Joe
still
Burrow.
be there. Great matchup, but I just don't trust him personally.
All right, fair enough. All right,
that's like a rule that really has done well for me. Is like I just don't play hurt guys.
Yeah, typically I don't either. Occasionally there will be spots where it's like, well, now he's at super low ownership, and what if he's not as hurt as we think he is? Like, so occasionally I will, but that's probably a rule that is going to work out often.
I did just say if he was fully healthy, he'd be like the best play of the slate. So
exactly,
upsides
so it's
there.
Like, So
okay, Neil.
All right, so I'm probably going to get there with DeAndre Hopkins and just hope that he's not as hurt, or that he can still do it while he's hurt, just because of the volume. I don't know. Let's move on and talk about running backs, because it sounded like you were done talking about quarterbacks. And we're trying to keep the show under an hour and a half. So let's move on and talk about some running backs. Let's start by looking at the chalkiest running backs. So we have Joe Mixon currently at 21%, Bijan 21%, Achane 20%, Montgomery 20%, Kamara 18%, DeAndre Swift 15%. Let's draw the cutoff there. DeAndre Swift 15%. So we have these 6 are all 15% or higher expected ownership. Are any of these guys popping out to you as like, I'm going to be above weight to the field there? Anybody? And I know you said you're only playing 3 lineups, so if you're playing any of them, you're above weight to the field, I guess. Any big priorities for you among these top 6? Anybody that looks like a big fade to you?
Yeah, I think Mixon's an absolutely so easy play. I don't think he should be in the top 7 of that list. I totally get it. Like, and like, it's scary to say that because he's a player with bury you upside. He has game script. He's like the most game script sensitive running back. His usage is actually better than it was last year. It's just this offense is broken. And like I said, it's the worst offense in football, and Burrow doesn't look close to healthy. And that's just like an easy fade for me. And the matchup's great, of course. I think Bijan's a little overrated. I think he's, a good play, huge upside. I wouldn't put him there. David Montgomery, like I said, if Gibbs is probable, I think he's the best running back play of the slate. Now he's doubtful. Devon Achane, I love. I think he's like an insane value. But because he's there, and that might even be low, Raheem Mostert is just like de facto the best GPP play at the position.
Yes.
I don't have to say anything beyond that. Like, it's just like so glaringly obvious. So on my own lineups, I really want to play Achane, but I might just have to just go 100% Mostert on those 3 lineups, something like that.
Would you ever play both of them together?
Oh, I think you could do that for sure.
I mean, we saw. I mean, they put up how many fantasy points,
and we saw that last year. Miami onslaughts.
Yeah,
smashing.
So no reason you can't play both of the Miami running backs. All right, moving on down the line. Actually, maybe I should just open it up to you at this point. If I see a running back that I have,
I don't think Connor's good there. He's losing the passing down role to Mari DiMercato, or at least the last few weeks he has. That's not a game they're supposed to win, so that's kind of worrisome. Not really into Henry, not into Hall. I think people are over. Yeah, I kind of just hate all these guys. Ramondre, Madison, none of that makes sense to me.
Let's talk about Hall just a little bit more, because Hall is somebody that stands out to me as somebody that I do have interest in. He's 5,400. He's facing this broken Broncos defense. We've seen him take advantage of broken defenses. What is it about Hall that you don't love?
Again, it's a Zach Wilson led offense. I get that it's like a best possible matchup, but it's still the Jets. And then, Robert Saleh said, "Oh, no limitation on the snap count." But if you read the full quote, it's not really what he's like. No, we still have faith in Dalvin, and Dalvin's, getting his legs under him, and we spent a lot of money on Dalvin. It's like, all right, you're not really. It's not saying Breece Hall's about to be a bell cow.
No,
and he's still a guy who's working his way back. And like, has he done anything this year? He had like 2 sick runs. Like, that's what makes this nerd. Like, I have to do my job, right? I just listed off 6 guys who I think like ownership is wrong on, right?
Yeah,
and I'm gonna be right more often than a lot of people. I might be right 5 out of 6 times, but like that 6th time is like, okay, Breece Hall has 2 50+ yard runs, and then I look like an idiot, which he like absolutely can. It's just like, personally, with that ownership, I'm not going to be making that calculated bet.
Yeah, that's fair. And Joe Mixon,
I don't like Ramondre in positive game script.
Yeah.
Zeke mixes in more. I don't like Alexander Madison with Cam Akers getting more snaps, but I could see it. I just don't. If he were 5%, I might make a bull case argument for him, but he's not. He's over like a lot of guys. I like, again, right? I guess Raheem Mustard has insane ownership right there.
I'm going to sort by salary now, just so we can see if there are guys, upper in the upper salaries that you do like. So Bijan one, you say that he's overrated. I feel like it's a smash spot for Bijan, but I anticipate that I think you said that you like somebody who's 4,700 getting no ownership. I'm wondering if I'm correct that it would be his teammate. Is it?
Yeah, you're correct. All right, so this is my Galaxy Brain play of the week, and so you don't have to tell me. This is just what I'm personally doing, and like this is what's his ownership? What's Tyler Algier?
0.3%.
0.3. Okay, so
it's not going to be that low. It'll be
the field is saying 0.3% chance he is a GPP winner or less than that. Whatever. I'm saying it's like 5%, which is like 80x what it is, but it's still like low probability. And so Houston is like a top run funnel defense. They're not as bad as they were last year, but still, again, a top 5 run funnel defense. What's really interesting is this year when Atlanta is leading, Tyler Algier is the guy over Bijan. He has a 43% expected fantasy point market share that leads all players at all positions by a wide margin. Granted, it's such an RB-centric offense that Bijan still ranks top 3 among all players. So Bijan could certainly still get there. When trailing, Tyler Algier is like basically, 0. And then Robinson is, top 10.
Sure.
But like well ahead of Algier. That's sort of the split we're seeing, is like ton of work in the passing game for Robinson. Whereas Algier is kind of the grind the clock red zone guy. But like that red zone thing is like massive for DFS tournaments, is it not? And thus far, Algier has out carried Robinson inside the 10-yard line, out touched him inside the 10-yard line 4-1. And so Vegas is saying Atlanta beats the Texans this week. They're favored, not by a lot, but by 2 points. I kind of think Houston wins this game, but like if you just assume Vegas is right, and Vegas is usually right, that shapes up to be an Algier game. And so it's like, yeah, like Robinson absolutely is a great play, has slate wrecking potential. But I mean, Algier's 3,000 cheaper and no one wants to play him. And this is like the perfect game script for that.
Yep. So
it's like Roshan Johnson last week, right? If you knew game script would look like that, where they led by a wide margin through the first 3 quarters, he's a great play. And I don't know what game script looks like, but Vegas is implying this is the right week to consider this.
My only concern here with Algier is he popped out to me too. Like, so as I was doing the ownership show on Wednesday, I brought up Algier as like, I mean, if everybody's going to be on Bijan and Algier is going to get overlooked in a game where they should be running a ton, like he's going to look great. I'm at risk. I said after week 1, I said, I think this was probably his highest scoring game of the week or of the season. And then on Wednesday, I conceded that if he's going to have, like, he might have a game where he outscores what he did in week 1. And if that's going to happen, it would be most likely to happen in this week. So I love Tyler Algier, that call this week at low ownership. And I love the way you explained it. Like, yeah, you think he has a 5% chance of popping off. It's not like you're saying he's 50-50 to pop off. You're saying 5%, but if he's anything lower than, 3% ownership, that's a great play.
Yeah, it's also like, when are we going to get this opportunity again? Like, when's the next time Atlanta's going to be favored? So maybe that factors into it a little bit too much. But no, I feel good about this. I'm going to have exposure for sure. And we'll talk about the Houston wide receivers in a little bit. That's another spot I like. So,
okay. Any interest in Pacheco against the Vikings?
Yeah, I think he's a great play. I wrote him up for cash. I liked him well ahead of a bunch. Wait, what's his ownership?
We've got him at 9%.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you sorted by salary, of course. Okay, you screwed me up there. Yeah, great play. The big thing with him last year was he was just never used inside near the end zone. And through the first 2 weeks, we saw that 27% snap share inside the 10-yard line. But the last 2 weeks, 60%. So that's pretty big. That's pretty big for his DFS, GPP potential. Still, it's a more of a pass funnel matchup. 60% isn't a lot. Mahomes is really greedy inside the red zone typically, but I mean, he looks good. He's coming off a career best usage, bell cow usage. I think he's right there with like the Alvin Kamaras, the DeAndre Swifts, Kyron Williams. I kind of like those 4 guys just about perfectly evenly. I forgot to turn my my heat off, and I am dying. Okay. So let me turn that off.
All right, you go turn off your heat. While Scott is gone, I'll remind you guys. So I believe that so Lance asked, what is Neil's Galaxy Brain play? It's the same one as Scott. I've said it on both of the shows I've already done this week that Tyler Algier was also my Galaxy Brain play. So unfortunately, I can't give you a different Galaxy Brain play because it's the same as Scott's. I also love Tyler Algier this week, despite not loving him like on a season-long perspective, despite saying that week 1 was going to be his highest score. I have to concede that like this is the kind of spot where we want to play him, where he is getting virtually zero ownership. I do want to, and I should confirm with Scott is back now. Scott, I just want to. I was going to say I think that we have the Fantasy Points data suite free for this week. That's right. That still going on?
Yeah, little freebie. I think it expires probably tomorrow. So check it out today.
Free preview October 2nd through the 9th. So you got a couple of days. So you can, if you want to check out the Fantasy Points data suite, and Scott and I have we reference these tools all the time, and this is what I have been using when I do my showdown analysis, when I'm trying to find stats pretty simply. I've been using the Fantasy Points data suite. I really enjoy it. So check it out if you haven't already, and maybe we'll find an opportunity to look at it a little bit closer, Scott, but I wanted to at least give it a shout out as something that people should check out because it has become a big part of my process. Like there were things that I used to do where I would look at multiple different websites to find the info that I was looking for, and now I can just find it pretty easily in the data suite. So check it out if you haven't already done so. It's free for the next couple of days. Anything else that you want to say about the data suite or Fantasy Points, Scott?
Yeah, just make sure, let me just show a few things so you get a full picture of it. You want to click on defense in the top right. No, down.
Oh, defense down here.
Right there. So that was the player view. You can look at it on the defense view. You can go to the filter options. No, down. There we go. Go to play. Scroll down. Yeah, so you could filter by coverage shell. You could see if it's man or zone coverage. You can keep scrolling. You could check to see like accurate passes for quarterbacks or receivers, what their production was on screen passes, their home and road splits, and then scroll back up and go to split. And so like right now we're seeing this on the season long level. You could split by week, hit apply, and then you see all individual games. So if you want to see like what defense gave up the most yards in a single game, you could see that. You could split by number of different options, man versus zone splits, what quarter was it, and this is just one of our many tools. So that's some of the things to look into as you're playing around with it. And you can go right now to data.fantasypoints.com, and if you want to subscribe to Fantasy Points, promo code GURIFIC GURRRIFIC 25, 25% off. Really think we have the best football content in the game for season long redraft DFS. Like in terms of giving you the right plays, knowing who to play, we're the best. In terms of like game theory, things like that. That's why we do this show is to pick Neil's brain to help us out. But I think we can give you the right plays, the right puzzle pieces. Then it's on you to put that together.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much more data here that I've looked at, honestly, pretty basic stuff. But I actually asked on a show last week. I was like, we were talking about some player on a showdown show, and I was like, I want to see how many of his snaps were in the fourth quarter, like during the blowout. And I couldn't immediately find it, but somebody, while I was still doing the show, DM'd me. He was like, hey, I looked at Scott's website and I found that information. And I was like, oh, awesome. Just like he found it for me. I couldn't immediately find it, but there are people who are better at navigating this stuff, found it for me right away. And I also know that Jake Tribby and Chris Wecht just did a tutorial on how to use this a couple days ago, which I have not had a chance to check out yet, but I have been intending to.
Yeah, you might need that. Yeah,
I clearly do need
perfect
that
guy for it too. Chris kind of like built this tool up, part of his brainchild. He deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah. So check it out if you haven't already. Honestly, I've been using it for a lot of stuff this year. Really is useful for finding information quickly and finding information that you don't know how to find elsewhere. Of course, I should also say you can find all the stochastic tools, and you can find the fantasy points, a link to fantasy points in the description of this video on YouTube. You can also find links to all of the stochastic tools in YouTube. We've been using primarily, I've been showing you on screen, this is the boom bust tool and the top stacks, or the two tools that I've been looking at the most. You can find those on Stochastic by going to NFL, go to premium data, top stacks, and you can find the top stacks tool, the boom bust tool, and then the top showdown single game plays tool. We're not using it here, obviously, but for showdown, that is what I use primarily. I use that constantly. So this is where I'm finding the tools that I'm using, of the focus of my analysis, at least. And then of course you can find the sims, the lineup generator for building lineups, but for analysis purposes, I feel like these three are giving you some great information. So check out those tools as well. Some of the best DFS players of all time built them. That was what attracted me to the stochastic tools in the first place, and they're still as good as ever and better than ever, if I'm being honest. But all right, we can get back to our analysis. And I actually, before we move on from Algier, so I think this is worth a good question here from Stewie. Are we chalking up Algier's 20 and 15 snaps the last 2 weeks entirely to game script? Is there a chance it's just a true 70-30 split? What do you think, Scott?
No, that's a great argument. Like that's exactly what I considered it as well, where it's, maybe it's just Arthur Smith coming to his senses, which doesn't seem like something Arthur Smith would do, but that Bijan deserves more touches because he's that good and clearly better than Algier, like no question. But I mean, that's what I'm saying when it's like, 5 to 10% chance, he's one of the best values of the entire slate, but ownership's going to come in well below that. It's far from a lock, but it's just a way to play it.
Yeah, no, same response here. Like, no, we don't know. Like, it certainly could just be a 70-30 split. He's also like, it could be a 70-30 split with the Falcons. 70-30 split could be like still a significant number of carries because they run so much that it's like, that obviously would not be ideal, but like, I think they run enough that both could honestly get pretty big workloads here. I just refreshed. I want to see if we have, do we have Jahmyr Gibbs out now? It looks like we do, right? Oh, no, he's still in there. All right. So we have not updated for Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm curious to see what David Montgomery's ownership is going to be and how that affects everybody else, because clearly it's impactful if somebody like gets massive ownership. I don't know if that's going to happen with David Montgomery, but I think it is worth looking at. So you'll have to look at tools later on. And of course, we'll have shows tomorrow that you can check out to see how things update. Any other running backs that you wanted to talk about, Scott?
Jaleel McLaughlin, I think, is a really interesting play if Javonte Williams sits out, and I'll say I'm like 80% sure he does sit out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you know who the all-time leading rusher in college football history is?
Is it Jaleel McLaughlin?
No, dude, it's Jim Brown. Everyone, no, it's Jaleel McLaughlin. Believe it or not, he out-targeted Samaje Perine last week. I think he's really interesting. I mean, like, full disclosure, I probably probably don't have any exposure to him this week, but
Okay.
I just think he's interesting at like, you have it at 0.1%. He'll rise, once Javonte gets ruled out, but that could come late. And you could be ahead of it just by at least pondering that possibility now.
Yep. Good call. All right. And to answer your question, Lance, we kind of talked about this earlier, Lance. If you would do a Stroud double stack with an Algier run back, I think that seems reasonable also, or a single stack with the Algier run back might be the better option. It's still obviously pretty early in CJ Stroud's career, so we don't know yet if this is going to hold with the alternating big games for the wide receivers. But I think either way, I think that it is certainly viable. We ready to move on to wide receivers, Scott?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Talk about some wide receiver. I feel like we're making good progress. We're actually going to get it done in under an hour and a half today, I think. All right. So we'll start by looking at the chalky wide receivers. Look at all the wide receivers 15% and above. That is Tyreek Hill at 22.5%, Justin Jefferson 21%, Jamar Chase 20%, Garrett Wilson 16%, Marquise Brown 15%, AJ Brown 15%. Anybody stand out to you as like a slam dunk play of those six, and any big fades for you?
Yeah. I mean, I really get it with Jamar, but if he's going to be that chalky, I probably won't go. I just think, Tyreek has 50 plus fantasy point upside. He's just proven it so many times. With him, it's only a question of, will Miami need to throw that much? And like, probably not, but like, it could still happen, or like he could get there without that. Jefferson, I think, is like the better play straight up, just because like he's on pace for like the most absurd wide receiver season ever. He has a season low of like 27 DraftKings fantasy points. It's the highest total game of the slate. So that's easier to me than the guy who's hurt. But like, I mean, I wrote up Jamar Chase. Like, I get it. I totally get it. Just for me with my 3 lineups, not going to do that. With Garrett Wilson, again, it's like a similar thing. It's like, it's Zach Wilson. Like, are we really excited to play Zach? And then it's Garrett Wilson against Patrick Surtain. I get it. Like, if there were any time to play him, it's like the worst pass defense. The usage is amazing. He's like behind only Devontae Adams in first read target share. He's the focal point of that passing attack. It's just, that ownership, I'll go elsewhere. DeAndre Hopkins, again, best play the slate if he's healthy. I don't think he is. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is like an easy fade. There's a ton of wide receivers sub 4K who are really interesting, like legitimately a ton of them. I like almost just as much as Wan'Dale Robinson, who, by the way, has 0 upside. Like I don't know that he's like fully healthy or healthy enough for a full-time workload. I get the target per route run thing, but it's also like at a -3 ADOT. He's basically like a scat back with this sort of usage. And granted, they have no offensive lines, but they need like a 0.1 second time to throw average. And like, that's him. It's just, I really question the upside there. If you want to get unique, you could play Darius Slayton, who no one's talking about. He actually leads the league in depth adjusted yards per target over expectation. He's played well. He also saw an increased, you'd have to go back to player view. He also saw an increased route share like Wan'Dale, but no one's talking about it. And it's sort of the thing where like they're going to be playing from behind probably the last 2 quarters against prevent defense. I don't know. And like he could rack up some yards in a way that I don't know that Wan'Dale can. So if you scroll the way to the right, you can see depth adjusted yards per target over expectation. YPTOE, there it is, right next to wide route percentage. Just click on that. Yeah, 10.5 leads the league. And then if you want to just click on week 4.
It's just for the Giants here. Let me.
No, keep it there. Because then you have to qualify for like minimum route thresholds. So now it's Pharaoh Brown, but he only saw like 1 target. But if you go back to Giants and then you click on week 4 and then you click on apply, you can see the route share and you can see how, Wan'Dale still wasn't a full-time player, but Hyatt wasn't too far behind him. And that was a major increase for him. He was in like the 20s and 30s before week 4, and he jumped up to 61%. And he saw 51% from like 20%. And so, he's the sort of like deep burner with freakish speed who, may only need one target to pay off his I'm not going to play it. I'm just not. Okay. I'm just saying that makes sense in a show like this where we're talking about ownership and leverage plays. Can you go back to the wide receiver page though? I think there was someone else I wanted to shit all over, which is always fun.
So you're not a Wandell guy. Khalif Raymond, Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd, no. Like, how many games did T. Higgins and Jamar Chase miss last year? And Boyd did absolutely jack shit. So, like, I don't know why we're excited to play him. I mean, I get it, but it's also, again, a quarterback who I don't think is healthy. Adam Thielen, I think, is amazing. All right. So Adam Thielen is a great play. If Andy Dalton were starting, he's a must play. But today he's a great play. Something people are missing is this is also like a perfect matchup. He's up against a defense that ranks bottom 3 in schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers. Thielen runs 70% of his routes from the slot. You can pull this up in the tool in a second. He also ranks among all wide receivers 8th in XFP per game, 8th in fantasy points per game. And he's like the wide receiver 21 by pricing. So
I was going to look at first read because Adam Thielen, I think, is pretty far. Maybe I'm misremembering this. I thought he was very far up in terms of first read percentage, but I'm not seeing him as high.
You just filter by XFP per game, maybe, or fantasy points per game. But
so he's 21st in terms of first read target share.
It's jumped up the last 3 weeks though. Jonathan Mingo was weirdly getting those looks, and that's not really the case anymore.
Okay. Expected fantasy points per game.
What was my stat? Do we have a filter on that I'm missing?
So 14.6.
Oh yeah. So my stat was over the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
8th in XFP per game, 8th in fantasy points per game. Wide receiver 22 on the slate, a short slate. 70% of the routes in the slot. Detroit, bottom 3 against slot wide receivers. And their starting slot corner is out. Brian Branch is out. So great matchup. Obviously, the big concern is quarterback play, but he's a good play. You want to go back to the wide receiver list?
Yep. And I'm sorted by ownership right now. So if you want me to sort by salary.
No, I like that. I like that. Keep doing that. So I wrote him up as a top 3 cash play, I think. Let's see. Thielen? No, top 5 cash play, Adam Thielen. Another wide receiver I did write up as a top 3 cash play, Nico Collins. What the fuck are we doing here, Neil? So, like, again, AJ Terrell, Atlanta grinds the pace down. All that's really concerning. But there's we keep talking about these rules and DFS that I've followed for years and have made me a lot of money over the years. They're not perfect, but it's 8 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10. And just, you keep adding that up, you're going to profit over the long run. And so I like being on stuff early. And then once I'm on it early, I kind of don't pivot off of it until it burns me. And playing the fuck out of Houston wide receivers hasn't burned me. Like I said, I think they might just be the new Seattle Seahawks DFS cheat code. A Houston wide receiver has been in the winning Millie Maker lineup 3 weeks in a row. Prices have barely budged. Collins is the wide receiver 16 in salary. He's the wide receiver 4 in DraftKings fantasy points per game. He's ahead of AJ Brown in DraftKings fantasy points per game, who's 2,600 more expensive. And he's not chalk. How is he not chalk? Again, the matchup, the on paper matchup is brutal, but it's also a man heavy matchup. And guess what? Nico Collins leads the league in yards per route run against man. Usage hasn't been as good as his production, but it's just wide receiver 16 in salary, wide receiver 4 in DraftKings fantasy points per game, and he's not chalk. Let me just keep doing that. And then, but like you said 15 minutes ago, Tank Dell is also a great play because maybe they're just rotating weeks. Maybe it's just one of those things. We know the upsides there. And I see Robert Woods, I thought he was going to be 3%. So I kind of liked him a little bit more, a little bit less now, but it's he quietly ranks 12th in targets, and he's wide receiver 30 in salary. He's actually tied with Tank Dell and XFP over the last 3 weeks. And he's cooked, he's dust, but It's also a slot funnel matchup. He's their slot wide receiver. Atlanta really good against perimeter receivers, but the funnel volume to the slot, I just question his upside, so I'm probably not going to go that route. But I do expect to have a lot of Nico and Dell, and just kind of rotate throughout lineups.
Okay, I'm glad that you brought Dell in there as well, because I was about to bring up Tank Dell as you're talking about Nico Collins, because in my mind you kind of have to still trying to figure out how to separate them. Like, I think Nico Collins is a wide receiver one there, but Dell has clearly shown that blow up game upside as well. So I'm glad that you brought up Tank Dell. Wan'Dale Robinson. So you're a no, you're just like no interest in Wan'Dale Robinson. That's it. So I guess the upside, I think that you're probably right about the lack of upside. Like, he hasn't really shown much in terms of like explosion kind of play potential. I guess the upside would be like 8 receptions and a touchdown would be, but like, do you think 100 yards is like out of the question for Wan'Dale Robinson?
Probably, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, he had that in a game last year, right? It could happen.
I feel like he had one like great game. It's always when he's just being peppered with targets is when he has his big games. So
yeah, well, that matters in a PPR league. Yeah. He had 13 targets, 9 catches, 100 yards in his final game, a game he suffered a season-ending injury. We said Darren Waller is going to be blocking more, and he's only running chip routes, chip block routes, and but I'm just not going to play the negative ADOT guy who's not too far removed, less than a year removed from ACL surgery. So that's just what I'm personally going to be doing.
I will say, so
read my article. Like, if you want to see where I rank these guys and why, but
sure.
Just to make things easy on myself, like, I'm in build lineups mode right now. And I'm not going to play the chalk negative ADOT guy.
Yeah. I will say, so the one, I guess a point in favor of Wan'Dale Robinson is when we're talking about upside, you need to also think about the upside of the lineup itself. So in this case, we have Wan'Dale Robinson at the stone min in terms of salary. So if he is the highest scoring player at 3,000, he's going to allow you to get to lineups that nobody else allows you, like Khalif Raymond, even at 3,300. Maybe Khalif Raymond outscores Wan'Dale Robinson.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, like, there's a lot of 3K.
Okay, so we're gonna have to find guys. We're gonna have to find who those guys are that you would rather play over Wan'Dale, because if you can find some that you like,
they're not better plays. They're not. I'm not projecting them for more points. It's just when you factor in ceiling and ADOT and ownership.
Yep.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to. I was gonna say, so we need to. If you are saying like, well, Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't have any upside, well, we got to find somebody else in that price range that maybe you can play in his place that you think like could outscore him. Because if those guys are there, then takes away some of the appeal. But before we get there, Scott, I just want to, because one of your stacks you mentioned was Matthew Stafford, and I feel like that's a discussion we really need to have. Is who are you pairing with Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, obviously that's tricky. I think part of the argument is, well, he gets, the GOAT wide receiver back who, set the record for fantasy points by a wide receiver in 2021 and then led the league in fantasy points per game last year. And now he's added this lineup, and like, Stafford has looked great. Like, he's been getting cucked in terms of touchdowns by Kyron, but that's something that's going to regress to the mean. But he ranks like top 3 in passing yards per game, and he's looked well. He's actually hurt too. He's a little banged up. I'm kind of nervous about that, but he gets cut back, which is exciting. The way I will, it's so much easier to be an MME guy because you can make a case for Higbee or projections like him. You can even make a case for Tutu. Kind of has the he's more of the man coverage guy, where like Puka and Cup are sort of redundant in that area. But I would play Puka. To me, I've been saying since week 1 is like, he's the new Cooper Cup. You just, since week 2, play him as it like, if he's not priced like Cooper Cup, just play him until we're sure Cooper Cup is fully healthy. There are some rumors floating around the industry that I've heard from multiple unrelated sources who are typically right, that like, Cup's going to play this week and like maybe he'll play well, but there's really weird vibes on his health status. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like severely limited. He's going to have some plays drawn up and like maybe at the red zone and stuff like that. But Puka would be my primary stack, and then you can kind of get creative from there. But my lean would be Puka.
Well, one thing
it's not something I feel great about, but that is my lean.
one counterpoint is Chris Ostro points out in chat, Cup and Stafford dropped a podcast today. This is going to break every sort of narrative metric if they
The
go off this
podcast
week.
narrative, I
The
know.
podcast narrative. Yeah, I didn't see that. I saw that they announced that they were going to do a podcast. I didn't see that they actually dropped one. It actually might be insightful in terms of like maybe they talk about the health situation at all. But that is good info. And I know that you have in the past like sort of mentioned your sources to me, and they've been pretty reliable in terms of like some things that you've told me that have sort of surprised me in terms of like.
Have I told you this one
about Cup?
Yeah, we'll talk after the show.
You had not told me about Cup,
right, yeah,
so
okay.
that's interesting to me, and a bummer.
I don't know that it changes it, but it is something that just kind of like pushes me more in one direction.
Yeah, no, I think it is worth talking about if you have people telling you that, and it's all up in the air. So Puka is your guy. I love hearing that. Puka looks good.
It wasn't really week 5 related, the rumors.
But no, I understand that. I understand that that's like he's not looking good. Like potentially for the season, it might not be in the best spot, which hurts me from the standpoint of somebody who has like 14% Cup in best ball. It pains me to hear that, but it's still good information to have going forward. All right, so had to touch on that point. I think we can skip over most of these. I feel like we've talked about.
We have to talk about Detroit Lions, but like honestly,
yes.
I'm not helpful. I'm still kind of figuring it out. I want to have a longer conversation with Brett Whitefield, who is our like director of charting here at Fantasy Points, and like watches every Lions game because he's a Lions homer, but he's also like really connected. He has connections to the organization. And he's like always right when he talks about it. So that's something I'll hopefully have for our Discord subscribers, Discord users Sunday morning. But that's a situation I just need to dive in deeper. But obviously, like I think it's a Montgomery game, but like there's still upside for these underpriced pass catchers. And we'll talk about Laporta when we get to tight ends.
Yeah, I just noticed it like Amon-Ra splitting between going out, lining up out wide, and lining up in the slot. Khalif Raymond is a guy that we have seemingly taking on kind of, he's obviously not Amon-Ra St. Brown, but like we have him kind of stepping into that role with, seems like the guy who projects the best point per dollar for us. I guess you said that you're not helpful here, so maybe
and then there's Jameson Williams coming back, who like
I know it changes everything. Yeah.
So I don't have a great read. Sorry guys, but hit me up Sunday in Discord.
But I think it's reasonable to say that probably all these guys, Josh Reynolds, Jameson Williams, I don't know about Jameson Williams, at least Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, very much in play. I don't know if
Jameson Williams could play like 12 snaps and I wouldn't be surprised. And he could have like 5 catches for 160 yards and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I know. That's and we saw it last year. He had the one game where he played like 8 snaps and scored a 40-yard touchdown or something ridiculous like that. And I feel like I think he actually had another game that I think we're forgetting about where he had a long touchdown also, and it got called back. I think that he had another game where it was like so close, or maybe he dropped one really in the end zone or something. But I feel like he was actually close to having 2 games in a row where he had like huge games on very limited snaps. So clearly has that kind of upside. But that's probably enough Jameson Williams talk for this week.
We didn't talk Marquise Brown. He's a good play. I just don't have like whatever ownership says is, oh wow, he's number 1.
No, I'm sort of by team.
Oh, okay, nice.
I keep throwing you off.
15. That sounds good. I was gonna fade him, but Chidobe Awuzi's out, and like that changes everything. So he's a really good play.
All right, I'm gonna sort by salary now. Let's go dumpster diving at the bottom there, because you said that you got some cheap plays that you like. I want to hear who they are. I'll start scrolling slowly now.
No, I wanted to talk 2 more contrarian plays who aren't cheap.
Okay.
And then we can talk cheap guys.
Okay. I had one that I want to talk about towards the top, but who are the 2 that you want to talk about?
Jordan Addison, 3%.
Yes. I love that. That's not the one that I was going to bring up, but he is, I'm very interested in Jordan Addison at 5,300.
Like he's not a value, but it's like just there's massive upside for number 2 Vikings receiver in the game with the highest total by far. That should be a shootout. He also he's not a full-time player, but he has been a full-time player when the Vikings are trailing. You could pull that up in Fantasy Points data, super easy. Shout out to Jacob Gibbs who came up with that stat. And it's just, that's easy. What is he? 3% for you guys?
Less than that. We have
2%.
Addison at You say you saw 1.9%.
Wow. Yeah, and so just big upside for a game everyone wants, and like direct Jefferson leverage.
Yep.
I mean, Jefferson probably scores 30 just because that's what he does every week. But
Yep.
and then the other one was Zay Flowers. Like, I like Lamar a lot this week.
You're gonna play
I'm
that
like
Munchkin.
The what?
I said you're gonna play that Munchkin. Do you see the quote?
So I don't know that I am, because he's the same
Okay.
place as Mark Andrews, and I just think like you get more upside from like if Andrews is the number one, there's more upside to your roster because he's a tight end.
Yep.
But I'm a Zay Flowers hater. I didn't like his prospect profile coming out. Now the hype is out of control when like really he's done nothing but catch screens and then like one or two deep passes, which like screens are like don't count as real production to me. That's just like cheap manufactured. You're not beating cornerbacks. You're just getting layup throws. But I mean, he does rank 11th among all wide receivers in first read target share. And like the matchup legitimately couldn't be better. The Steelers have given up 31.7 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receiver ones. That's 33% better than the next closest defense. And so what's his ownership?
We have Zay
6.3.
Flowers at 6.3. Yep.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that just because that's intriguing to me. But
Patrick Peterson came out and said that he looks forward to covering that little Munchkin, is why I called him a little Munchkin.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I just thought you were a heightist.
No, I'm not at all. Not a heightist. It's just just a Patrick Peterson quote from this week. All right. So
I mean, I don't know that Patrick Peterson's a guy who can be shit talking too much.
I don't know either.
All-time legend, but not the past few years.
Let me throw you one more name that I really love this week, and I want to hear if there's a reason that I shouldn't love him so much. Jalen Waddle at 4.4%. We've seen this Miami offense just crushing souls all season, and Jalen Waddle hasn't really been the guy yet. He's still like he's one of the fastest players in the NFL, clearly a talented guy, and they can do whatever they want. And that's totally narrative based. They can do whatever they want against the Giants. That's one of those narratives that I sometimes play that I don't know that there's any real value to it, but sometimes I say, the Dolphins are going to be able to get whatever they want against the Giants. Maybe what they want is to get the guy involved who hasn't really been involved yet, and that's Jalen Waddle. So if you don't want to factor in that narrative street stuff, though, we have him projected for 4.4% ownership, 7.1% chance to be an optimal. He's just 7,500. I feel like Jalen Waddle is a fantastic contrarian play here. Am I wrong, Scott?
No, that's a good call. I like that. I get it.
All right.
It's just like I don't know. No, it's just a good call. I mean, he could score 8 touchdowns, right? Right. I just think the offense looks a little different because like, the running back, it's now more running back focused, and like Tyreek still like needs his targets. He's kind of like a noisy asshole who like,
sure.
All right, you're going to give the running backs 10 touchdowns. Well, then I need a 50% target share, but no, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, he's been dealing with injuries and like 75% snap share, like just about every week, only 5 to 6 targets. And he's still, racking up impressive yards. He still looks really good. And like he showed last year, like how many times were we so excited to play Tyreek where it was randomly a Waddle game. No, I think that's a good call. He's not a value, but I definitely get the argument there.
And it is also, I should add, leverage on like every other Miami play. People
oh, you're right. You're right.
No,
that's a really good call.
So yeah, I have a lot of interest there this week. So just wanted to give that a shout out at the top.
I think the argument I just made wasn't good. I think you're right. I think Waddle's a really good leverage play.
Okay. Love it. Love to hear that. Okay. Carolina. So you say you like Adam Thielen. I know in past weeks you've had some interest in other Carolina guys. Are you going to any of the other, like the DJ Chark? I think Jonathan Mingo's out, right? Or am I wrong about that?
No, definitely not playing any other Panthers guys.
Who any other cheap guys that you wanted, or anybody else in general that you want to talk about, or should I keep scrolling down to talk about these cheap guys that you prefer?
Yeah, we could talk about the cheap guys. I really like Alan Lazard.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, 3,900.
I mean, I don't know that I really like him. I just kind of think he's interesting because it's a bet on Zach Wilson looking somewhat competent this week, which kind of makes sense against the league's worst pass defense. And then it's a bet on like Patrick Surtain. Maybe he doesn't stop or shut down Garrett Wilson, but it just like funnels a little extra volume in his direction. He gets Damari Mathis, who's been easily one of like the bottom 3 worst cornerbacks in the league this year. And he's also like weirdly one of these guys who like shreds man coverage here. And then he's like an absolute nobody against zone. So those spots when I find them are a little interesting to me. Nelson Aguilar too. He's kind of in that range. It's the same thing. He's another one of those guys like weirdly great against man and then does nothing against zone. And then, like I said, Zay Flowers, I'm a hater, but that matchup's good. And maybe he's not the beneficiary because he's getting those like fake targets, those screens where Aguilar is going to actually be, well, actually, no, I forgot that Bateman's back this week and OBJ might be back as well. So he's probably not in play.
Okay.
And then there were 2 other names. I wrote them up and then I deleted them. So I'd have to find it.
Okay. One name that, so somebody just brought up in chat.
Rashee Rice, of course. Yeah, but he was looking chalky when I checked. So I kind of crossed him off my list.
Yeah. What do we have? We have Rashee Rice at 7.2%. So yeah,
he
a fine play, but not like if you look at his just like last week in particular, I think he was still just at like 50% routes run, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that's spiking while Sky Moore's is falling, which like should absolutely be the case. Sky Moore is so ass. Get him out of the lineup. And Rashee Rice, like his numbers are nice. Like they're popping. Among all wide receivers, he ranks top 3 in threat rate. What is threat rate? It's your target share when you're actually on the field, and it takes out throwaways and batted passes and spikes. And so like he's dominating targets when he's on the field. Maybe that's just like schemed usage like it is with Zay Flowers. I don't think so because he's not getting a ton of screens, but it could just be like he's clearly the best of these like trash wide receivers. And Mahomes is like, oh, the good guy's on the field. Let me target him. Yeah. It's a great matchup. So yeah, that's a good call. All right. Nick Westbrook Akina is like vaguely interesting just because again, Treylon Burks is out. I don't think that DeAndre Hopkins is healthy. Led the team in route share last week, led in XFP, led in targets, and Colts are pretty bad against wide receivers. That's a good matchup. And then the other one was Alec Pierce. So remember I said, actually the Titans for 4 straight seasons have ranked bottom 3 in fantasy points per game allowed to opposing outside wide receivers. I think bottom 6 over the same span in deep passing yards allowed to opposing wide receivers. And so, like I said, he's basically Gabe Davis in terms of volume. He just hasn't done anything with it, but like Richardson's elite with the deep ball. They just haven't connected thus far. Great matchup. No one's going to play him. He's just like Wandale outscores him 9 times out of 10, but like in terms of posting a GPP winning score, it's a lot closer to even.
Yeah, no, that's a really good call.
I mean, he also might just stink. I don't know that he doesn't stink, but
I think he does stink, but that doesn't mean he can't do it for 1 week.
He's a freak athlete. So these are all guys I wrote up and then deleted. So like,
okay,
I write up a lot of names. So like, I don't love them, but they're just guys to consider if you're an MME player.
All right.
Rashee Rice is probably the best of him and Lazard of this latter tier we've talked about.
Yeah, Lazard is really interesting to me because he's somebody that I would not have thought about at all, and you're giving me a reason to think. And he has some positive leverage in our tools as well. So like you're kind of giving me a reason to think. And he's nice leverage off of Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. Like there's a lot going on there that is in favor of Lazard in large field GPPs. Somebody I had not thought about at all this week until you brought him out. But
yeah, but he's also seen the exact same number of targets as Tyler Conklin, who also has like a perfect matchup. Denver's been really bad against tight ends. I don't know. They're just guys to consider.
Okay. Any other wide receivers you want to talk about before we move on to tight ends?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, if you think of any others, we can talk about them. But we'll move on, talk about some tight ends. And we got Travis Kelce against my Minnesota Vikings this week is going to lead the ownership here by a good amount, 24% projected ownership for Kelce. Do you think that's a good amount? I think that's a reasonable amount of ownership there?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Sam Laporta coming in at 15% without Amon-Ra. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the last time Amon-Ra St. Brown's only missed one game over the last 2 years, and TJ Hawkinson dropped 52 DraftKings fantasy points in that game. And Laporta's usage and volume is better than when Hawkinson was with the Lions last year. But I mean, it's supposed to be a David Montgomery game. I really think it's going to be. He's like a man killer. He's been insane against man, hasn't done much against zone, and it's a zone heavy defense. I don't know. There's some sort of like redundancy to like the way him and St. Brown work, where like I could really see like people chasing Khalif, and then it's actually Laporta who just, you know, kind of like steps into the St. Brown role. It's a tricky. Like I said with the Lions, like someone from Laporta, Reynolds, Khalif, Jameson could be like an absolute slate wrecker, and I'm still trying to navigate that personally. So I'm not too helpful here.
Okay, that's fair. I like this question about what are we doing? So with Freiermuth out, do you have any interest in Connor Hayward, or Darnell Washington?
No, I think there's better punts. Jonnu, for instance.
Okay. Jonnu, Kyle Pitts, man, just does not look good out there. Looks like he is hurt.
Well, he is seriously.
Yeah.
Jim Thrive, I forget his Twitter handle, but he talked about how like in August he was like, Kyle Pitts isn't going to be right until week 9, and then after that, Stephania Bell, who's pretty plugged in, was like, Atlanta's not being honest about this injury. There's like way more going on than they're letting on. And then Arthur Smith basically came out and said that he's not close to being healthy. And if you watch the tape, he's like definitely not healthy. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Wish I had known that this offseason, which I think that I probably could have known it a little bit earlier when Stephania Bell did the Levitan interview. She kind of alluded to the fact that Kyle Pitts was.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
And that is okay. And that is, I kind of stopped drafting him after that point, but I had been jamming Kyle Pitts into my lineups, drafted him all over the place prior to that. So I wish I had known a little bit sooner there. What do you think about, so you say you have Darren Waller all over the place. I have Darren Waller all over the place. He's 5,400 still, hasn't done anything all year, but now he's facing this Miami defense that's not very good, coming in at 2% ownership. What do you think of Darren Waller as kind of a contrarian tight end this week?
Yeah, I'm just not going to do that. Like I said, you know, his press conference, he had belly's banged up, so you know I got to be blocking more, which I don't. And he was already running like most of his routes were chip block routes because like the offensive line is so bad, so injury depleted, and so he's not like the Darren Waller you were drafting anymore. At least not until this offensive line gets healthy.
Yeah, I think that I'll do it, but I honestly I was so excited to do it when I thought Andrew Thomas was going to come back for this matchup and nobody was going to be there. Now it's more like yeah, it could. Maybe they'll just be better for no reason this week, and he'll be better. But it's not a high confidence play. Would have been a much higher confidence play if the offensive line just got a little bit of an upgrade there. What about Dalton Schultz as part of that CJ Stroud stack or individually?
Yeah. Great matchup. Like I keep saying, Atlanta very good against outside wide receivers, the funnel volume in the slot, but the really funnel volume and production of the tight end. That's a top 3 matchup for him. It's just like he's been such a distant fourth on the target totem pole. Like I have no interest in him, but I get it. I think our projections like him this week.
Oh, is he behind Bobby Trees also?
Well behind. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Bobby Trees has a ton of targets. I'll
Yeah.
pull it up in a second, but
I mean, I can pull it up right here. Oh, I guess I just have week 4 pulled up. I think you mentioned Mark Andrews as your favorite stacking partner with Lamar Jackson. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's close with him and Zay. It's really close, but I like Andrews a lot. He came in, him and Kelce both came into the season banged up. He missed a game, and then they had like a limited route share, but his route Andrews finally saw a full-time workload last week, 85% route share. He scored 25 fantasy points. He's over 1,000 cheaper than he was on average last year. So there's value there. I mean, his usage kind of like sucks this year and compared to last. Like Zay Flowers has really crushed him in terms of first read target share, stuff like that, which isn't great. And like Pittsburgh is a lot worse against wide receivers than tight ends, but it's also a man heavy defense. Andrews historically crushes man. Lamar historically crushes man. And it's just like, it looks like he's healthy. I think he's really good. No one's going to play him because everyone wants to play Kelsey. But I mean, like Kelsey's also a great play, but yeah, I like him.
I know you and I have talked about the 2 tight end thing. I'm not opposed in general to 2 tight end. Probably as much. Maybe I should be more than I am opposed to the 2 tight end thing. But if you're playing guys like Kelsey and Andrews, I think that you don't even have to worry about the 2 tight end thing. Like they're both like they have wide receiver 1 kind of upside. So I think you could play. Do you agree with that? You could play both Kelsey and Andrews in the same lineup potentially.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that's super unique. Why not?
5,500.
Right? It's basically like you're playing Zay Flowers in the flex, except you just think Andrews outscores Zay Flowers, which why not?
You lose the tight end bonus bump of like needing to play a tight end, and it's worth more when you play him in the flex. But I mean, still, Mark Andrews we know can pay off that 5,500 price tag.
I mean, you could argue he should be projected as like a fringe wide receiver 1, and he's priced as like a wide receiver 3. So you can make that argument work in your favor as well.
Exactly. All right. Any other tight ends? Oh, I actually wanted to touch on one more. Dallas Goedert to me. So Nick Sirianni keeps coming out and saying, we want to get Dallas Goedert more involved. He's still a focal point of this offense. He said it before last week, and then they didn't do anything with it. But he's 4,200 against this Rams defense. I think that I'm going to take my shots there on Dallas Goedert. Any interest for you?
Yeah, I think he's a really strong play for tournaments, large field tournaments. He, obviously has done nothing, but he ranks second among all tight ends in route share, snap share. People say like he's seeing a different role. He's not. It's like a similar ADOT. It's just like not getting the targets, which makes sense to me because Devonta Smith and AJ Brown are so good, and like AJ Brown complained. I think Dallas Goedert needs to, start bitching at Hurts on the sideline and get his target share up. But it's a top tight end funnel matchup, and like he does have like sick GPP upside. He I think led all receivers or ranked top 3 in depth adjusted yards per target over expectation and fantasy points per target. So like any targets to Goddard go a lot farther than they do for any other tight end. Personally, I'm probably not going to play him in my 3 lineups. Just okay. I think it's been so bad, and it's like if he blows up every 4 weeks and I just never play him, like I don't think that really kills me. I don't know.
Okay, so you're probably not playing him, but you can see the appeal. I like him. I like him this week. Goddard going to be probably one of my higher exposed tight ends on the slate, but I understand what you're saying also. I want to pull up. So because I'm a Minnesota homer, I need to note that KJ3 is right that people are sleeping on Hawkinson this week. He's facing Travis Kelce and the Chiefs, maybe trying to steal Taylor Swift away. Who knows? He's got to show off in front of Taylor Swift. I'm the superior tight end. What do you think? Any interest in Hawkinson?
No, I think that's a great play. I mean, like everyone who wants to game stack that is going to play Kelce, right? Right. So it's just easy leverage playing Hawkinson. I think that makes a lot of sense. He's been really good, man. Since he joined the Vikings, he's been like well above Andrews in terms of volume and production.
Yeah, just targeted a ton. I like it.
I also like Chigo Okonkwo. And maybe this is just because I was way too high on him heading into the season, but his route share jumped a lot. He had one of the most efficient tight end seasons in NFL history last year. And his route share jumped a lot from last year to this year. And he's like a crazy zone beater. Since the start of last season, he ranks top 7 in fantasy points per route run against zone. It's like Tyreek, Jefferson, Kupp, and then like randomly Chig. And then Chig just does absolutely nothing against man. And so you could argue like his slow start has been related to that. 3 of the 4 defense he's played ranked top 7 in man. and then the other defense is like somewhere in the middle. And then this one plays zone at one of the top 3 highest rates in the league. So that's on paper a good bet for an upside play. It's also like, has he ever had a spike week in his career? And the offense isn't great. No Treylon Burks. I don't know. He's just someone worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But it looks like ownership's high. I thought he was going to be like a sub 5% guy.
Oh, I guess there is one more player. I feel like I haven't talked about him on a single show this week, but Irv Smith at 3,100 without T Higgins in there. Any interest there?
Yeah, I almost wrote him up. Price isn't bad.
I was getting to some of him in the stochastic lineup generator, which tells me like there are lineups you can make that he is going to be in that are plus EV lineup. So maybe somebody to think about with T Higgins out. Just one more name to throw in the ring there at tight end. All right, any other tight ends you want to talk about, Scott?
We mentioned Jonnu, but I do like Jonnu. I think he's a fine play. Good value.
Yep. And you also mentioned Conklin already earlier as having a fine role.
Yeah, the issue. No, great matchup. Not a great role. Jeremy Ruckert weirdly mixed in a lot last week and ate into his route share. I could see him getting there. Hayden Hurst, I think he stinks, but he has a sick matchup. I'm not going to play any of those guys, but if I were an MME guy, I'd bump them up in the tool or whatever.
Okay. Any other tight ends, or you want to build a lineup?
Yeah, let's build a lineup.
All right, we're going to finish the show by building a lineup here on DraftKings. Scott, do you want to take the first player?
Well, remember, we're doing 2 lineups. This is what we change.
Yeah, you're right. Hopefully I can actually enter it this time on the screen.
You start us off in a stack, and then the next one I start us off in a stack.
All right, so I'm going to start us with both parts of the stack. So I'm going to do the quarterback and a receiver pairing. Who do I want to go here?
I know who you want to go. I don't know if you have the stones for it.
I'm trying to. Do you think I want to go to Zach Wilson?
Oh no, I thought you were trying to do dimes again.
Oh, dimes. I'm very much considering dimes. Yes, you are correct. I do have the stones for it. Now you're basically calling me out. So now you're forcing my hand here to do a dimes. And I'm going to go dimes I'm not going to offend you by going to Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm going to go dimes with Darren Waller as the stack.
No, can I use my veto on that?
Yeah, you get one veto. You only get one for the 2 lineups, though, Scott.
All right, I like that. I'm going to use my veto and replace with Slayton or Wan'Dale. That's your choice. Either one.
All right. Well, you were pretty opposed to Wan'Dale, and Slayton I think is going to be a great leverage play. So let's go Slayton.
Right. I was expecting him to be like 3,200. Honestly, I didn't realize he was 4,100, but that's fine. Okay. It's for a milli lineup. I get it.
Yeah, you got to go ugly sometimes.
I'm gonna play. Let's get weird here. Let's get weird here and have some fun.
I'm in.
Mostert. Wrong position.
Oh, yep, still on wide receiver. Mostert.
And then you pick the next one. You get one of 2. A-Chain or Waddle.
Yes, I was going to go Waddle all along. I do like the idea of A-Chain just as a contrarian combinatorial kind of play.
I mean, it's unique either way, right?
It is. It's going to be unique either way. So I'm going to go with my guy Waddle.
I mean, this is like a dangerously unique lineup now.
Well, now we can fill in the chalk if we really want to.
Right.
But let's just fill in who we think is going to score big fantasy points.
Let's do Jefferson then.
Yes. All right. So we have 42.50 remaining.
Okay.
Do you? We didn't talk about defenses. Do you have any strong defense takes?
Let me pull up my notes. I don't think I do. I don't think there's great value this week. It felt like a week to consider paying up, I think.
We were getting to a lot of the Titans. I was getting to a lot of
I was going to say, yeah, Titans are the best under 3K. Patriots, Saints in that middle range. And then, Ravens, Lions, Dolphins at the top.
All right, I think because we only have 4,250 left over, we should go to one of these cheaper. I kind of like the idea of Saints against Mac Jones, maybe a little bit razzled after the last game. I mean, defenses you just kind of go with whoever's going to be more owned.
And Derek Carr is like in even worse shape than Burrow is by far. So,
oh, you want to go to the Patriots? Wait,
I'm saying you could go. No, I'm saying you could go either way on that.
Yeah. Right. Well,
if you go Saints, you could stack with Kamara. I don't know how much sense that makes, but yeah, let's play Saints.
Yeah, and if we have an extra 100, we could go up if we really want to, but let's start there. Okay. So we got a tight end, a flex, and a running back to fit in there. I mean, we didn't put in one of the like super contrarian plays that you and I both agreed on, which we probably don't need him in this lineup, Tyler Algier, but we could to have more salary. It's your pick. You can pick whoever you want. If you want a tight end, flex.
You want? I don't love Jonnu, but you want to just play like the cheap tight end just to see what we can do from there.
All right. Where are you, Jonnu? All right, so now we have 5,500 left per player.
Could we do Algier Nico?
That could be interesting.
This is such a galaxy brain lineup.
This is a super galaxy brain. I mean, we're entering the millie. Where are you, Nico? There we are. 56. So we have 800 left over. We could actually.
Oh, we could play A Chain and just go Onslaught.
A Chain instead of Nico.
Yeah. Oh no. I just saw that as a possibility. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
We could also do Kamara for the stack.
True. With the defense.
What are other possibilities?
We could also upgrade the defense if we wanted to. I mean,
we could upgrade tight end. You want to? All right. Here's what you do. Cut out Jonnu. Put in Hawkinson.
Man, that's a change.
Sub Slayton for Wandale because we're unique enough.
True.
And just see what that does for us.
All right, so we have 3,900 left over now.
Is that Lazard? It
is Lazard. That's exactly Lazard. What do we think of this one? This hyper galaxy brain lineup, but
galaxy brain.
So we got Jefferson and Hawkinson now.
Oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. What am I doing? Okay. You saved me. All right. This is a fun combination. All right, we can reverse Hawk. We can reverse Lazard. We can maybe go back to Slayton.
All right.
Where's Atlanta's defense? Oh no, they're way up there.
Are they?
Yeah. I thought they were gonna be like bottom 10. They're
3,400. I mean, we could with our original build, we could have upgraded to 3,400 Atlanta.
I mean, I don't think they're a good value.
Okay.
I just like stacking with my running back when I can.
Sure.
Especially with him, because that's a bet on game script is what the entire thing is. Like if you're gonna play heavy Algier this week based on a recommendation, you're gonna want to bet Texans to win straight up.
Yeah.
Hedge yourself a bit because that can go bad. What about your boy Goddard? You feel strongly about that?
Oh, I love Goddard. Yeah.
All right, let's see what that does. Remember, this is your lineup. This isn't mine.
Oh, this one's mine? Okay, I didn't realize. We could play Thielen here.
We could play Tank Dell.
I don't hate that. Well, do we have Nico?
No,
we took Nico out. That's right. Tank Dell. Is there a defense we like better than the Saints?
Or Thielen? Thielen fits more perfectly.
He does fit directly right in there at the max salary.
I feel like that's fate guiding us.
Yeah, he's been crushing the Lions for years. So
yeah.
All right.
You always want to finish first or last. JM to win always says that. So this feels like one of those lineups.
This is absolutely a first or last kind of lineup. All right, I'm playing it if it lets me. Why is it not? All right.
Well, maybe that's fate.
Yeah. I don't know.
What happens if we drop to Wandale? Who does that bump us up to? Let me just see. 1,100. 6,200. Doesn't really move the needle to me. You can get Nico, Garrett, Wilson, but that's fine.
All right, so we're gonna stick with Slayton.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to enter this on
Darius
my phone.
Slayton, more like Darius break the Slayton.
That is absolutely right.
Oh.
Darius break the Slayton. All right, I am going to.
If he does, that's gonna be a sick social media clip.
Oh, for sure.
The 0.01%
just you saying that
happens.
Yeah. All right. Mostert, Algier. Where are you?
Oh, this whole time I've been saying Darius Slayton, I've been thinking about Jalen Hyatt.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Well, he's the same price as Wandale.
Yeah. Well, that's why I liked him as Wandale leverage, because he's the deep threat.
True.
But that's fine. We can do whatever.
I mean, Slayton is still the guy who's like leading in terms of like routes run and stuff for the Giants.
Yeah, but Hyatt leads the league in per target efficiency. And he also did see a major uptick in usage.
All right. Well, are we leaving Slayton in there or are we switching him out? What do you think? I'm happy to switch him out. Jefferson.
Let's just see what happens. And then we can go back to it.
What do you mean see what happens?
Yeah, go to Hyatt and just see if there's like a running back maybe in the flex. I do like Thielen though.
So Hyatt's 3,600.
Okay. All right.
It gets up to 5,600.
Is that Nico?
Nico.
Yeah. All right. That's Nico perfectly. So I like that.
All right. We're doing this line. This is better.
Nice.
It saved me from myself entering that earlier lineup. So now we're going to 30.
I can't wait to win the millie and then like play this back. And it's like, wow, that your computer glitching just saved us,
absolutely.
$900,000 swing.
Yeah. All right. Now we have the perfect lineup and it did allow me to enter it on my phone. So now we can enter another lineup that I'll do simultaneously on my phone.
Don't dupe this, listeners. I'm gonna be so pissed if I have to chop up $1 million because you played this Galaxy Brain bullshit lineup.
Yeah. All right. So now this one is your lineup. So how do you want to start, Scott?
Interesting. Should we just do a Lamar?
Yes,
Cousins,
absolutely.
Stafford, Tua.
We should 100% do a Lamar lineup if it's yours.
We'll do that.
All right, we're gonna do a Lamar lineup, and then who are we pairing him with?
Probably Andrews.
All right.
It's just like it feels so much better to just be done with that tight end spot,
True.
When you like click and Zay, you're like, oh, but I like this wide receiver. I like this wide receiver. When they're probably like very similarly good plays.
All right. So the last lineup we did Mostert. We could do Achane in this one.
Yeah, let's do Achane and Dell.
Achane. Yep. And then Dell is 50.
For my 3 lineups, I feel like you need. Oh, can we eat the chalk on Montgomery?
Oh, good call. Yeah. Yep. He's just too cheap. I like that call. With no Gibbs, no Amon-Ra in this matchup with Carolina. That's fantastic. Okay. Wide receivers. So now we have 4,800. Should we fill in the defense again just to like have an idea of what our actual salary remaining is?
Yeah.
All right. Wait. Doing this on my phone too, so make sure that I enter it. All right. So for defense, so we did Saints last time. Do you want to go at the other end of it? Go Patriots or somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to play that.
All right, we're doing Patriots defense. So now we have.
What's the chalkiest defense?
Let's see.
That's the question we should be asking on an outside the box show.
That's a good point. This is the defense that we're probably not going to play. Looks like it is the Titans.
Well, why not just play the Colts then? That's easy. Like the Titans don't have a good offense.
True. That's actually, the Colts. And what are they?
I hope they're cheap.
3,200.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could do that.
All right, 100 more. Let's do it.
All right, so we have 53.33 remaining.
You want to do Thielen? Because
that's right. We didn't use him last time.
I feel bad for him. We bumped him out of the last lineup.
We did. All right, so we're going to need one more cheap player, either at wide receiver or flex.
We're just going no bring back, right? I mean, it's just so gross.
We could do Pickens. Pickens actually is 5,200. Look pretty good from a value perspective.
Yeah, I almost wrote him up. He's another one of those guys who does better against man, so he has that matchup. But Marlon Humphrey's back, and I just think he's not good. Or he's good, he just can't separate, which I hate wide receivers like that.
What do you think about Lazard in this one?
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that. He was a very fringe guy. I just kind of like that. Jordan Addison, I like.
I love that. Don't have Jefferson in this one. You want to do it?
Yeah. What's the opposite of stars and scrubs? What's it called when you just go
balanced? It's just a balanced lineup.
We're insanely balanced here.
Yeah. Now Nico's available. We have Dell already. We can go Flowers. We can do a double stack.
Yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it.
We're doing the double stack. Lamar double stack. No bring
Lamar
back. Who needs
400 yards, 4 touchdowns, plus 101 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns.
I love it. Great lineup. All right. I think that is going to do it for. I saw somebody asked us to do a FanDuel, but I feel like this show has gone on a little bit too long, and I'm not really prepared to do FanDuel.
Yeah, I'm not really a FanDuel guy. I'll just be honest.
Yeah. So maybe apologies that we're probably not. We're not going to do FanDuel today.
They fired me when I was like 20.
Oh, really? Well, then fuck them. We're never doing FanDuel. I'm sorry to whoever asked.
They're cool.
That's really
cool.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. But you can play similar plays. I mean, honestly, a lot of the plays translate. Obviously, the salaries are different, the structure is a little bit different, and it's half point per PR instead of full PPR. But a lot of the analysis that we do, I think, translates to FanDuel as well. But all right, that is going to do it for the show. Scott, do you have any final words?
Nope.
No final words from Scott. He has said too many words. He is over his word quota. If you read what he's written, he just did a 2-hour-long show. You've got enough words out of Scott. You don't.
No. You know what? I've got a little room for more in me.
Okay.
Like this video, comment, subscribe. Also subscribe to fantasypoints.com. Gurific 25% off. GURRIFIC 25. And remember, our subscriptions are like stupidly cheap. Only $50 for a standard package and $150 for premium, plus CFB is just $150 combined. So, and the data package is $50, 75% off this year. So fantasypoints.com.
Free for 2 more days.
That's right.
Worth pointing out. If you just want to check it out for the next couple of days, the Fantasy Points Data Suite, I don't think you will be disappointed because it's only $50 even after that for the season. So yeah, now is a good opportunity to check it out.
What is that painting in the background, Neil? Did you paint that?
So what's funny? Oh man, that's really insulting to me. No, but my wife painted it. So somebody asked that. People have asked that before. Oh, that's a beautiful painting behind you. So my wife painted that at a like wine and painting thing. I don't know what they're called, but like you drink wine and you just like paint by numbers kind of thing.
I've done that. That's
my wife painted. That is so that is of the one of the art museums near me, and it's in Minneapolis.
It looks like a football on a spoon. You know, like the spoon that people like melt crack in. But it looks like there's a football, like, and she's trying to insinuate that you're a football junkie.
I wish. It's actually just a cherry, and I believe she painted it before we ever met. So she did not paint it for me. I found it in my basement. I was looking for things to decorate my office with after I decided to do the shows up here. So I was like, I should put something on the walls. I went down to the basement. I found these 2 paintings. There's another one there. And I had no idea where they came from, what they were. So I brought them upstairs. I was like, hey, where did these come from? And my wife was like, kind of laughed at me, and she was like, I drank some wine and painted those at a paint by numbers kind of thing. So that's what those are from. They were just the best paintings that I could get up there on short notice, but much better than I could have done. She did great, in my opinion. All right, you're done. Any final words? I guess you got out your pitch for the fantasy points. Check out the data suite if you haven't already done so. Of course, you can also check out we've looked at the stochastic tools throughout the show, so you can see what we have right now, but that's obviously going to update tomorrow with more information, new ownership and stuff. So you can check out the boom bust tool, the top stacks tool, all that kind of stuff available at Stochastic. But yeah, as Scott said, please do give us a like. We've really appreciated all of you guys' support. People have been so supportive of the show. Honestly, it's been awesome. I've loved doing it, but it's great to have a community that is supporting us as well. We really, really do appreciate you guys. So on that note, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Fantasy Points channel as well. Hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live, and let's crush it. Good luck this weekend.